On Joy News Prime, regional ministers hold ceremonies to hand over to MMDCs ambulances commissioned by President Akufo-Addo at the Independence Square on Wednesday. Meanwhile, at the newly established National Emergency Center, call takers are lamenting the overwhelming number of prank calls.
Average, you can take more than 1,000 calls per day.
Okay, and out of this 1,000, how many of them are calls that require genuine assistance?
Percentage-wise, 10%.
10%?
Yes, sir.
It means the other
90% are prank callers.
In business,
Ghana to abandon single ports rule for new ECOWAS system to maximize revenue on transit goods. We'll hear from the Commissioner of Customs.
If there are any risks of losing something out of transit, it is now less than 2%, and that's. But we are trying to make sure that we have 100% guarantee of all transit leaving our country.
Inter-party resistance against voters register to go ahead with planned demonstrations next week despite IPAC meeting, which they say ended inconclusively. I'm Israel. Live Joy News Prime comes to you live from the Joy News studio at Kokomlimli here in Accra with digital address GA0992539. Stay tuned in. In our very first story, the United States has recorded its first case of human-to-human transmission of the coronavirus, and I'm going to be sharing that details with you. It's breaking on CNN in the last hour. It talks about the transmission happening in one of the U.S. states, about 7,000 people. It gives some other updates on the disease. So it talks about the evacuation topping 8,000 as the countries move in to want to evacuate their people. Right, so we're bringing you the latest on that update on the person-to-person transmission in the U.S. So the United States has reported its first confirmed case of person-to-person spread of the Wuhan coronavirus. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention announced on Thursday. This is the second case of the virus in Illinois. This second person is a Chicago resident and the spouse of the first confirmed travel-associated case in the state. The second patient did not travel to China. And here in Ghana, health officials in Tema are on high alert over fears that deadly coronavirus could find its way into the country through Ghana's busiest seaport. They explain that apart from the airport and borders, a significant number of foreign nationals, including Chinese, enter the country through the seaport. The strategic location of Tema and its constant interaction with foreigners, they say, present serious risk. Health officials in the metropolis, however, say necessary measures are in place to contain any suspected cases. Tema Metro Health Director Dr. Sally Quarte was speaking on the sidelines of a performance review for 2019 in Tema. Correspondent Kwame Yanka has more in the following report.
Since the outbreak of the disease in December last year in China, the flu-like virus has claimed about 170 lives, with over 7,000 persons affected. A number of countries apart from China have confirmed the outbreak, pushing authorities in Ghana to step up readiness. As an entry point, the port city receives a number of visitors, which is raising fears of a possible outbreak of the disease in Tema. The Tema Metropolitan Health Directorate is assuring residents of adequate measures at the various facilities. Also, an isolation center at the Tema General Hospital is expected to house referred patients with suspected novel coronavirus disease. Dr. Sally Quarte is the Tema Metro Health Director.
Tema being a port city, as we said, it sees a lot of visitors coming in. It's not everybody who is coming through the airport. Sometimes they come through the PS. And so we have to be vigilant. There are certain things, basic things that we should do. We wash our hands, we are sneezing, you are covering your nose, because you think somebody is going to transfer it to you. You don't know that maybe even you have it or you are carrying it around. So we are doing that, making sure that there's minimal contact, with objects and other places where other people are using. So as soon as you can, you shake hands with people. In Ghana, that is our culture. See anybody, you shake hands. But when you do, as soon as you can, you wash your hands, soap, water. Yes, and then when you see any suspected case, you advise the person to go to a hospital. Yourself, you cover up. We may not all have the masks, but at least you have a hanky, you have a tissue, cover up, and you advise the person to go to the hospital.
Meanwhile, Medical Director at the Tema General Hospital, Dr. Richard Anthony, says the emergency response team is ready.
Influenza surveillance has always been ongoing by the Public Health Department. So we have put in structures, emergency response team, nurses, doctors, orderlies, security men, pharmacists, administrators, including myself as emergency response team. And as you know, nationally, there's a national response team coordinating implementation committee that has been put on nationally to make sure that any such patient that will come is quickly managed. There are other health facilities that have been earmarked to manage such cases, should there be any of such cases picked up, like the 37 Military Hospital and also the Rich Hospital, amongst others.
The annual performance review was attended by both public and private health practitioners, among other stakeholders. Kwame Yanka's report for Joy News.
Staying with health, Volta Regional Minister Dr. Archibald Letcher has hit back at those criticizing ceremonies held in the regions to hand over ambulances commissioned by the president. At the ceremony in Ho, to commission 18 ambulances allocated to the region. He explained the Regional Coordinating Council is only following due process to ensure the vehicles are entrusted to the care of the Metropolitan, Municipal and District Chief Executives. He described the critics as persons needing deliverance.
Ambulance. And he inspected it. Soon after that, news went round that the whole West ambulance was missing. I don't know whether it was spiritually missing or physically missing. Then yesterday, when the ambulances arrived in town and went around town, I had calls. Why are people wasting government fuel? They don't want the people to know that even the ambulances have arrived. They don't want the people to know. Then I heard something on City News that Volta Regional Minister is recommissioning executives of the NDC in the whole central constituency are angry over a decision by the regional minister Archibald Letcher to recommission some ambulances assigned to the region. Then I also read a statement by the whole central NDC, the recommissioning of ambulances by the Volta Regional Minister, an act of mediocrity. I want to put on record that Ghana is a unitary state. We have the national level, we have the regional level, and we have the district and assembly level. So everybody in Ghana must know, including journalists, that Ghana has a we have a national level government, we have a regional coordinating council, and then we have assemblies. So when the president performs a commissioning ceremony at the national level, the people of Ghana, many of whom might not have watched on television, might not have read newspapers, also need to know what has happened. And when ambulances are allocated to Volta region, there is nothing wrong with the ambulances.
For the Volta Region Commander of the Ambulance Service, Francis Boy, the ambulances couldn't have come at a better time.
These ambulances came at the time that we're in need of ambulances. And as my regional coordinator has already said, that we were operating with only one ambulance in Volta region, and it even broke down just yesterday. So the commission of these cars today and onward distribution to the constituencies is timely, and it's going to help us to enhance on our efficiency and service delivery in the region. It is very true, but the government has signed a 5-year MOU with the suppliers who are going to do the maintenance for the next 5 years until they hand over to us. But we have a maintenance unit in the region as well. So minor challenges that might come along the way, we will solve that within the region. But major ones will be done by the suppliers. Our advice to drivers is that we should not drive more than 90 km per hour. It is not the speed that saves the human being, but rather the care that we provide in the back compartment that saves. So we should enhance our saving capacity rather than speeding. So we have advised them all not to drive more than 90 km per hour.
Central Region Minister Kwamina Duncan has justified the ceremony to hand over 23 ambulances to the constituencies in the Central Region. According to him, the ceremony was unavoidable because the various assemblies needed to be educated on the usage of the ambulances. Kwamina Duncan was addressing a gathering at the Central Region Coordinating Council to hand over the ambulances.
Honorable Solomon Dakukwa, the Honorable District Chief Executive for Gomwa East, I present these keys to this ambulance.
One after the other, the names of the various constituencies in the Central Region were called, and the ambulances were handed over to the district, municipal, and metropolitan chief executives. The regional minister, his deputy, and officials of the Regional Coordinating Council were there to perform what they call a very important and significant part of the ambulance distribution by government. Central Regional Minister Kwamina Duncan said it was extremely important for the ceremony to be held to officially hand the ambulances to the constituencies for their usage.
There are a few things that ourselves at the Coordinating Council needed to know, and were also to know it collectively. And so if they had been driven to the constituencies direct, then that kind of message and education that we all needed to understand, because collectively we are going to be the custodians of these ambulances. It was going to mean that that piece of news was going to be lost out. So it was for all of us to converge here for that piece of education to be done by the ambulance service personnel, completely unavoidable. Because if they had been dispatched directly to the constituencies, then the education which was meant for me, education which was meant for the MMDCs. So that meant, what that meant was that the regional officers of the ambulance service had or would have to go to every district to engage with them. And again, it was going to be bits and pieces. We all as collaborators need to come to the center to be singing from the same hymn sheet. So it wouldn't have been the best way. And so that is why we all gathered here, so that nobody will have an excuse that, oh, I'm not even well informed on this, that when it happened, I was not there and all of that.
He, however, says critics of the move by government to commission the ambulances and the subsequent ceremonies at the regional level are entitled to what they think.
Environment, no matter how well you dance, if your enemy or opponent is trying to learn how you dance, they will only twist their waist. So all you need to do is to focus and to continue to deliver the things which will help your people. As for people talking and as for people criticizing, that's the beauty of democracy. So the president and ourselves, as members of government, we are not bothered at all.
The National Ambulance Service schooled the MMDCs on the responsibilities that lay on their shoulders as far as the usage of the ambulances are concerned. Deputy Regional Administrative Manager of the Ambulance Service in the Central Region, Martin Ewuamwa, says adequate preparations have been done for the successful operations of the ambulances in the constituencies.
The regional administrators were dispatched to the various constituencies to make the necessary arrangements to ensure that there is a residential, office accommodation ready to house the various offices within the constituencies, and also there should be what we call the ambulance bay or the canopy or shed, which is supposed to house the ambulances to ensure that the drugs, we have drugs, some medications on board these ambulances. We don't expect these drugs to be directly under the sunshine. It's going to damage those medications that we have on board. So as part of the requirements, we were to ensure that every constituency is well equipped as far as fixing or putting a canopy in place is concerned.
DC for Aguna West, Justina Marigodasan, who spoke on behalf of the MMDCs, recipients of the ambulances, assured the ambulance service will receive the best form of support to ensure its effective functioning. The ambulances are expected to arrive in the constituencies later in the day. Richard Kwejunyako, Joy News, Cape Coast.
And we're taking a break here on Joy News Prime, but still ahead, the newly established National Emergency Center says call takers, they are lamenting the overwhelming number of prank calls that are coming through.
Average, we can take more than 1,000 calls per day.
Okay, and out of this 1,000, how many of them are calls that require genuine assistance?
Percentage-wise, 10%.
10%.
Yes, sir.
It means the other 90%
are prank callers.
And then former President John Mahama has criticized the fuss over ambulances when hospitals, he says, were started under his administration have been abandoned.
In 2012-2013, we brought 161 ambulances. We did not make posters and say we're distributing ambulances and so on and so forth.
Stay tuned in, we're back in a bit. Well, sorry for the audio glitch earlier. Former President Mahama has described as needless the fanfare accompanying the distribution of ambulances. President Akufo-Addo on Tuesday commissioned 307 ambulances which have since been sent to the various constituencies. Government was criticized for parking the ambulances even though there was dire need for them. Officials, however, explained government needed to put the ambulances in good shape before handing them over. Addressing journalists today, former President Mahama says the ambulances will be useless if hospitals that he started or hospitals that were started under his administration are not completed.
It's not the first time ambulances have been given. In 2012-2013, we brought 161 ambulances. We did not make posters and say we're distributing ambulances and so on and so forth. You know, yes, you have brought ambulances, fine. We brought ambulances, we brought fire engines. Almost every district got a fire engine. I didn't go and stand and make posters that I was distributing fire engines. You know, there are many other things that we did without, I mean, it's government's obligation to do it. We gave the police more than 1,000 vehicles, the highest number of vehicles the police have ever had in the history of Ghana. Do you remember that I went and stood and touted it to high heaven? These are things that government must do, but we must get our priorities right.
You're watching Journey's when we're taking a break to bring you business news. Stay tuned in. Time for business. Sandra is here. Hello, Sandra.
Hello. The former president has been talking. He's been talking about the economy, the banking sector, and everything. But one issue of interest to many has to do with the FX committee and why we needed a 40-member committee for the CD's solutions. He's been talking about
He's been criticizing. Okay.
Exactly.
Right, you go.
My name is Sandra Sinamapeno. I'm here for business. Former President John Dramani Mahama has criticized the formation of a 40-member FX development committee set up by government to find solutions to the country's forest issues and the persistent depreciation of the cedi. He has therefore thrown a challenge to Vice President John Dramani Mahama to hold another lecture on the cedi's performance. John Mahama was speaking on Facebook Live a while ago.
It takes innovation and smart thinking to be able to do all these. They hadn't been in government before. They were very naive, asked 170 theoretical questions. Then today you come and set up 40-man committee to understand why the forex is. I mean, first year university students will tell you why the cedi is declining against foreign exchange. And so you don't need that forex committee. We all know why it is depreciating. If you have higher demand for foreign exchange against supply, it will depreciate. If you have an economy that is import dependent and you're not exporting enough, your foreign exchange position will depreciate. You don't need a committee to come and tell you this. A lecturer friend of mine, and I'll publish an assignment he gave to first-year economic students, and he asked them, if you were on the 40-member committee, what would you assign to the depreciation? And they did the assignment and they analyzed it. I have a copy. I'll publish it on my Facebook so that everybody will see. First-year university students have analyzed why the cedi is depreciating. Why do you need a 40-man, committee to tell you why the cedi is depreciating? I'm sure today they see the reality. And I'd have hoped that Bawumia will give another lecture at Central University and say some of the same theoretical things he used to say. You don't run an economy from textbooks. You don't run an economy with economic lectures. Running an economy takes practical work, determination, and prioritization.
So that was a challenge to Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Now to other stories. Now, Ghana's Customer Service Index for 2019 has seen a drop to 62.61% from previous score of 63.99%. The Customer Service Index is an economic indicator that measures the satisfaction of customers by services provided in various sectors of the economy. President of the Institute of Customer Service Professionals, Yvonne Ohui McCarthy, said there's a need for a stronger attitude towards the customer.
9 economic sectors, including the financial, retail, hospitality, health sectors, among others, were measured under the Ghana Customer Service Index. Overall, Ghana's Customer Service Index was 62.61%, down from a previous score of 63.99 in 2018. Yvonne Ohui McCarthy is the president of the Institute of Customer Service Professionals.
I think nothing has been done. That's why there's a drop. The truth is that when someone feels bad service or perceives that you're giving them bad service, if nothing is done about it, even if you continue not to give them any good service, the perception will keep declining. And I think nothing really has been done to work on any of the things that we spoke about, especially, for example, if you look at the bottom 3, telcos, utilities, public sector, I don't know of anything currently that's drastic that has been done to try and change some of these problems that we spoke about, which I think will be elaborated in the report. So it's just a matter of things not being done, strategies not being put in place, the willingness to change. And I always say that if they don't show the willingness to want to change, there'll be no point. As we can talk about it, but we can't change people, or we can't change organizations. Organizations need to be willing and ready to change.
The retail sector came tops with 67.16%, while the public sector recorded the lowest with 56.45%. The retail sector's top performance, according to the president of the Institute of Customer Service Professional, was as a result of foreign ownership of the top retail centers.
And we've analyzed and realized that most of these organizations under the retail sector, Melcom, ShopRite, Game, are actually run by non-Ghanaians. They have a different way of working. They respect the customer, even if their internal customer might not be as good as we've heard over and over again. But there are some strategies and structures they put in place that is working for them. And so you realize that they tend to do well in their business. They tend to stay in Ghana and have businesses spanning 10, 20 years and over. But then the Ghanaian sets up a business, and because the system that we use is wrong, the way we go about things, our standards are wrong, the business collapses or doesn't do well. So if you're a startup, you need to start asking yourself, how do I start my business right? Yes, we know that you'd be talking about capital, where to get a place, a physical location, but think about the customer, the very person whom you're hoping to take money from.
Other highlights of the report show that face-to-face business transactions dominated digital transactions. For Joy Business, Sheila Tamaklo reporting.
Ghana has joined the new transit monitoring system expected to be implemented by the countries in the West African sub-region to help prevent diversion of transit goods. The new system, which is expected in March this year, will boost efficiency of custom officials in member countries to monitor and get the necessary revenue from goods in transit. That's more in the following report.
And for now, before the end of the year, you mentioned specifically transit. In the case of transit, we were, as of December, operating around 98.5% of efficiency, which means that if there are any risks of losing something out of transit, it is now less than 2%. And that's, we are trying to make sure that we have 100% guarantee of all transit leaving our country and safely arriving in the destination countries. Now, there is also some good news. At the ECOWAS level, I was in Abuja for a conference of commissioners of customs. A new system has been developed, and it is going to be rolled out by all ECOWAS countries. And that system has a specific model for transit. And what that seeks to do is that the landlocked countries and then the countries along the coast having the port facilities are all going to be hooked on this. So as soon as a declaration is made, a transit movement, the vehicle and everything is done, straight away, automatically, all the countries hooked to that system are aware of the movement of this consignment. So the originating country as well as the destination country are aware of the movement of a particular consignment from point A through whichever port. So, and they see it real and live. So we are supposed to be hooked to it by the end of March this year. It was actually as a result of our transition from one system to the other. We want a system that starts and ends without several service providers doing overlapping and interdependent processes. So once that is put in place, in addition to our own efforts of trying to make sure that everything is now digital, I'm sure that issues about suspense regimes and in particular transit will be attended to.
A single port rule?
The single port rule is slightly different. The single port rule was going to be a project between selected countries.
In other news tonight, fast-moving consumer goods firm Unilever Ghana is said to be facing some serious challenges. The company is said to have registered a huge loss of 141 million cedis last year. This is against a profit of 59 million cedis in 2018. As a result of the loss, its basic earnings per share for 2019 was a loss of 2.26% share as against 3.05% gain in 2018. Here's a report on how Unilever has performed by George Yafi.
The 141 million Ghana cedi loss represents about 137% decline with respect to the profit posted in 2018. Unilever's revenue also declined sharply by some 46% to hit 339 million Ghana cedis. The manufacturing giant attributes the challenge to trading conditions and the reduction in its inventory in their distribution network. The firm, in its third quarter results for 2019, highlighted how these challenges could hit its end-of-year numbers. This forced the company to warn investors of some challenging end-of-year numbers. But despite this challenge, the management is still optimistic about the outlook for the company this year. Going through the report, it was clear that Unilever had taken some steps to reduce its loss position. However, challenges with the stock out on the market and decline the purchasing power of some consumers might have hit them hard. However, Unilever's problem could be described as a mix of internal and the current environment, which is not actually helping local manufacturing firms that might have to deal with counterfeiting of its local goods and the very cheap one that are also coming in from outside to compete with them on the local market.
Thanks so much for watching. That's all for business for now. I'm back after 8 p.m. with more business news.
Scrap dealers and distributors of electronic waste will in the coming months need permits to operate. This will mean dealers could be sanctioned if they are found operating without them. This comes on the back of calls by some environmentalists for a more sustainable and inclusive e-waste management system that brings together informal and formal groups operating within the space. Agbogboleshi, which currently is the world's largest electronic waste dump site, produces 250,000 tons of e-waste every year. Speaking at an e-waste news conference organized by GIZ in collaboration with the Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation Ministry, Special Aid to the Minister, Oliver Boache, revealed government intends to effectively regulate e-waste in the country by the end of 2020. There's more in the following report.
Every day, 100 tons of European electronic waste are burned in the Agbogboleshi landfill. Fumes of mercury, arsenic and lead darken the sky and poison the air every day. Burns, back problems and infected wounds are common ailments among the workers. The most affected are the over 80,000 residents living at Agbogboleshi, with many suffering from respiratory problems brought on by the hazardous working environment and toxic air pollution. 3 years ago, the government of Ghana, in collaboration with the government of the Federal Republic of Germany, launched the environmentally sound disposal and recycling of the electronic waste project in 2016. On Thursday, a ceremony was held to celebrate the achievement and launch the second phase of the project. Minister for Environment, Science and Technology, Professor Frimpong Boateng, revealed the 3-year initiative has been beneficial to the country.
As part of this project,
the German government is building a holding center, a national holding center, and there's land at the Atomic Energy Commission for that holding center. And then the National Recycling Center, which will be built by Ghanaians, will happen at Abu Broshi. And the construction will start pretty soon.
Special aid to the minister, Oliver Boache, also reiterated government's commitment to properly regulate the operations of electronic waste dealers.
Throughout that value chain, those who are producing electronic equipment, those who are importing them, those who are distributing them, those who are consuming them, those who are disposing of them, those who are collecting them, everybody, those who are transporting them, everybody is going to be identified and permitted. You'll be given a permit. If you don't have the permit and you engage in that activity, the law says that sanctions must be applied to you. Now, how these are going to be enforced is a challenge, but they are working on it, as he said. And by the end of this year, we will see actual sanctions being applied and people conforming to these regulations.
Head of the e-waste program at GIZ, Marcus Spitbart, encouraged government to look out for recycling options that retain funds for the state and its internal development.
Ghana really has a big opportunities because you have as well a lot of former recycling companies, waste management companies who have a lot of knowledge as well. So what we have to bring in is as well joint ventures with recycling companies from abroad, with local companies, to look into recycling processes, which can increase the revenues for the country, not to export the revenues, but to leave it here in the country.
The second phase of the e-waste program is set to run from February 2020 till January 2022 and will seek to raise e-waste standards amongst both the formal and informal sector of workers. PSA Nanaya Osafo for Joy News.
In Parliament has served notice it will resist efforts by government to give a $23 million tax waiver for the Pullman Accra Airport City Hotel project in Accra. The Finance Minister has laid before Parliament requests for the tax waiver on the procurement of materials, machinery and equipment for the project. But the minority is questioning why a private project should be given such tax incentives. President Akufo-Addo cancelled for the project in December 2018, and the minority is alleging the individual leading it is his brother-in-law, South Dai MP Roxing. Davian McBox says the request doesn't make sense.
Our suspicion, all these conditions haven't been. Our suspicion is that because it is owned by the brother-in-law of the president, our checks at the Registrar General Department reveals that the company is owned by the brother-in-law of the president, who is married to the First Lady's younger sister. And that is revealing because no other Ghanaian entity has been extended such a facility. Unless, of course, there's supposed to be a development, a project to be undertaken by the state in a PPP agreement, where some of the tax waivers, a few Ghanaian companies who are participating in these PPP arrangements, public-private partnership agreements in terms of the projects, are benefiting.
MPs are urging the Cyber Crime Unit of the Ghana Police Service and other agencies to do more to clamp down on the theft of the identities on social media. They're expressing concern fraudsters are stealing the identities to use in defrauding people in the name of creating jobs for them. Listening to Nortong MP Kobna Woyome deliver a statement on the floor on the issue, which Ningo Prampram MP Samuel George supported.
In recent times, Mr. Speaker, many Ghanaians, mostly the vulnerable and the needy, who are desperately looking for employment and other educational support, are falling victims to these schemes by these syndicates of fraudsters who have created fake Facebook and social media accounts in the names of public officers, especially members of parliament and other prominent people in society. These fraudsters, Mr. Speaker, download profiles, images, and other information of members of parliament and other prominent personalities to make the page appear credible and believable. In some instances, it's almost impossible to tell which of the multiple accounts in the name of the members of parliament is a credible official account. The worst of all, Mr. Speaker, these fraudsters are taking advantage of the situation, including the use of mobile money transfer system, to dupe unsuspecting victims of various sums of money. I am one whose profile and images have been used to dupe people, and so are other MPs.
Mr. Speaker, a random search of members of parliament currently in the chamber on Facebook will reveal multiple accounts held and created by fraudsters in our names. Mr. Speaker, just 3 months ago, I had to officially report to Facebook on my own to shut down 4 fake accounts in my name. I have received complaints of the majority leader and the minority leader, people reaching out to me and saying that they had been asked to pay monies to them for job employment opportunities. And then I tell them, if maybe the majority leader may have opportunities for job, the minority leader, he won't even have any. But these are real challenges that exist, that occur with our names. And Mr. Speaker, great steps need to be taken.
Whereas the minority leader has been Minister for Employment before. I don't know when the majority leader became in charge of employment in this country.
Very well, Mr. Speaker.
You may proceed.
And so, Mr. Speaker, I believe that we must take a 4-pronged approach to resolving this matter. First and foremost, there's a major role that the National Information Technology Agency needs to play proactively, NITA, for members of parliament and most ministers of state and government appointees. Once you are in public office, NITA must be able to take steps to protect the accounts, the official accounts of members of parliament and ministers of state.
Members of the Inter-Party Resistance Against the New Voters Register say they will go ahead with next Tuesday's planned picketing at the Electoral Commission. It follows the inability of EC to reach consensus with all political parties on emerging concerns about the compilation of the new voters register at a just-ended IPAC meeting. The meeting, which was held in Accra, brought together leadership of all political parties, IT experts and civil society organizations to agree on the way forward. But it appears the parties are dissatisfied, accusing the EC of failing to provide answers to pertinent questions on their decision. Here's General Secretary of the Opposition NDC.
The Committee of Eminent Persons afforded opportunity for all political parties to be heard. They made a presentation. There was only one snag, as far as we are concerned, about the procedure. Independent presidential candidate of a previous election, who in our opinion did not have any status as far as IPAC is concerned, was allowed to make a presentation, while civil society organizations, which have always played a very important role in our electoral reforms, were denied opportunity to make a presentation. That one we think is very irregular. If it was an IPAC meeting, so-called, then IPAC means Inter-Party Advisory Committee. That is political parties and electoral commission. So independent candidates have no role. But we agreed to relax the rules from the beginning so that we could allow any stakeholder present to make their presentation. Unfortunately, after the independent presidential candidate made a presentation, the civil society group were denied the opportunity to make their own presentation.
So what's the way forward?
Be that as it may, we have come to very important conclusions. The Committee for Eminent Persons assured us that they have heard all the presentations. They believe that each side has made a very reasonable contributions, and so they are going to formulate their advice and then present it to the Electoral Commission with inputs from everything that has been said here. Apart from that, they gave the opportunity that their doors are still open to receive any memos, petitions, or any write-ups of any nature, so they can take all those into consideration when they are advising the Electoral Commission. It must be said.
Do we know when this advice will come? Do we know when the advice will come?
Well, we have no idea, but our protest will continue.
One of the party, Samuel Fotuampofu, also questioned the timing of the commission.
The Electoral Commission did their presentation, both technical and financial reasons presentation. At the end of the day, what has come to light is that none of the issues that were raised spoke against the data of the Electoral Commission. Yes. So as far as we are concerned, all the other things that the Electoral Commission want to do can be done without compiling a new data. Because we asked the Electoral Commission technical person whether the data is credible or not credible. And he could not tell us that the data is not credible, because the Electoral Commission has conducted elections with this data as late as December last year. Yeah. And for that matter, we believe that all the other things that they want to do can be done without necessarily going back to touch the data through a new registration. The bombshell the Electoral Commissioner presentation dropped was that the voter register will be ready by the 8th of November 2020. 3 weeks to election. 3 weeks to election. And we are saying that if you have to compile a new register, go through all the processes, and the register will be ready by 8th of November, less than 1 month to the election, then of course it means that this register cannot be used for election 2020.
Well, the governing New Patriotic Party says the Electoral Commission is being disrespected in carrying out its duties. Communications director of the party tells the media that the governing party in 2016 respected the decision of the then Commissioner Charlotte Osei to maintain the existing rule against their will. He says all other parties must respect the EC's decision. It is estimated that as many as 5,000 Ghanaians have perished in the Mediterranean Sea in an attempt to enter Europe between 2015 and 2019. They are among over 15,000 irregular migrants who could not make the perilous journey. Addressing journalists on irregular migration in Kumasi, the International Organization on Migration said 13,976 Ghanaians also arrived in Italy by sea over the period. Abdul Latif Awal's report read to you.
Available to the International Organization on Migration indicate 1,176,921 Africans arrived in Italy by sea, having embarked on perilous journey through the Sahara Desert. Mr. Eboa highlighted some of the risks migrants go through.
Ibarapam said there were 142. After some time, the whole time, it was only 2 people who survived, including him.
The seminar exposed the media to the dangers of irregular migration and the need for public awareness to reduce the phenomenon. It is a collaborative initiative by the United Nations Children's Fund and Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association with support from the Italian government. Facilitator of the seminar, Professor Kwame Kakari, pointed out rise in political and dictatorial tendencies targeted at Africans, Asians and other non-white expose such migrants to danger.
In Europe now, the rise of fascism, that is the rise of political dictatorial tendencies, are targeting Africans, Asians, and non-white populations. And our people should be aware that these are dangers that could affect their physical lives.
Yeah. President of GEBA, Andrew Dansaninkra, says the media have a critical role to play in concretizing and protecting the citizenry.
Media is capable of bringing about changes in our society.
number one. Number two, the fact that the youth of today really pay a lot of attention to what goes on radio and on television. And then number three, the fact that a lot of young people are not well informed about this kind of irregular migration, the dangers that are involved. And we also feel that when it comes to matters of migration, a lot of people do not even know that it is a right for them to migrate. They can migrate using the appropriate channels to migrate.
Abdul Latif Hours report for Joy News.
Over 400 children diagnosed with various heart conditions at the Komfo Teaching Hospital may end up dead simply because their relatives are unable to afford the cost of treatment. The cost of treatment ranges between $2,000 and $60,000 for surgery, depending on the complexity of the situation. Cardiovascular and thoracic surgeon Dr. Isaac Ochre says he and his colleagues find this quite demoralizing. Oiming Toyo of our health desk has more.
The heart clinic at CAT sees at least 150 child and adult heart cases a week. Ghana and Senegal are the only leading West African countries where open heart surgery is undertaken daily, and there is always a backlog of cases due to high cost. The situation means patients have no option but painfully await death. Dr. Isaac Ochre sums up frustration of cardiologists and cardiac surgeons.
If we take adults and children, I think it's the responsibility of the state to take care of children. Most developed countries, or my country, India, health insurance covers children's surgery. And I think we should do that because most average Ghanaians cannot afford heart surgery for their children. In Kumasi, we have more than 400 children who need surgery, but they cannot afford. And so they will progress finally to heart failure, which we can't do surgery for them. Yeah, children. On the waiting list. Waiting list. Who are just waiting to die. Yeah, absolutely. Some have died every year, some of them will die.
18-month-old Yusuf Koli Zakaria is the only male child of Mason, Bashir Zakaria, and wife, Chako Sela, Suraya at Adumfa in the Fijakwabe district. He was diagnosed with a complicated congenital heart condition doctors call truncus arteriosus. From a local hospital through Komfo to Kolebu, Yusuf is frequently in and out of hospital for recurrent heart failure.
He has one of the complex heart conditions called truncus arteriosus. There's a big hole in heart, either in the upper two chambers or between the lower two chambers. And there's also something going wrong with the main tubes or vessels that blood is supposed to flow to all parts of the body and then the lungs.
Doctors say the only long-term solution is surgical reconstruction of his heart outside Ghana. Estimates from a hospital in India sent to the National Cardio Center at Kolebu put the cost at $12,000.
This baby, I've been told, has been coming several times for admission because the baby has been having heart failure. And I'm sure I was told that he was even discharged from the Komfo about a week ago because he presented with heart failure. So they're becoming recurrent heart failure. So there's cost for recurrent admissions. Of course, medications to control the heart failure. But these are just medicine drugs to control the heart failure. They are not managing or treating the actual structural abnormality or abnormality of the heart itself.
Yusuf's poor parents obviously are unable to raise the money. They have come to dead end.
I don't have direct hope that I have to go to this place to get that kind of money. So I can see I've lost hope, but I don't know, by Allah's grace, maybe he can, maybe let some help come from somewhere, which I don't.
Dr. Ochre wants children such as Yusuf and several others suffering from similar fate to be taken care by the state.
It's extremely sad. It says Ghana, we are smart people, we have surgeons, we can operate. But I think that we should all advocate. We can forget about the adults, but for children, I think there should be a way that if even the whole nation, you say surgery in children is $6,000, even if government takes about 50%, say $10,000.
From Kumasi, for Joy News, Ohimitiwia reporting.
A 28-year-old truck driver is receiving medical attention at the Misha Government Hospital in Kumasi after his vehicle crashed into a story building at Abuabo in the Asukariman municipality of the region. Eyewitnesses say the driver, Fusaini Faisal, attempted to avoid a collision with an oncoming vehicle from the airport roundabout towards the Abuabo post office. No one died in the accident. Mahmoud Mohamed Nuruddin was at the scene and filed this report.
A section of the road had been closed for construction, and drivers are compelled to use a single lane from the DVLA office to the airport roundabout. The driver's assistant on the wrecked vehicle said there were two broken down vehicles on the single lane towards the airport roundabout, and in an attempt to avoid colliding with any oncoming vehicle, the driver veered off into the closed lane. He says the driver lost control of the vehicle, leading to the accident. Here is an eyewitness.
Well, I actually heard the car coming and I knew it was like the driver was out of control. It usually happens here. So my mind wasn't actually there until I heard the bang and decided to open the window, and I saw the car was inside, right underneath my window.
So were you frightened?
Not really.
So how many people work here? Do you have workers here, and where were they?
Actually, it was in the middle of the night. It happened around 11:20. So there was nobody around. It's just some few people. If even it happens, there were people, but there was actually nobody. When I opened the window, it was just the mate who picked the stone and was trying to break a glass at the top to remove the driver, because the driver was shouting for help.
So when the driver was shouting for help, you came out, and how was his condition?
Actually, he said one of his leg was stuck in there, so he couldn't come out. And people were actually trying to break the passenger door to free him until help came from the fire service personnel who told everybody to leave the work for them. They actually went under the car to remove the driver. And that was when we realized it was only his left leg that he got injured there.
Osane banati pabiso ase ewo adalenu na we mantogo bi so furu popo no ba nti we die we be hu a na mantogo no aben no adalenu so gas bi asesi o gas car bi asesi o eno a de e be hu se wo yi afa ha ena ka no o feli control de abewura ha ade aye hu ya o feli break nti na o timi ayi afa ha anka o save mantogo no enya san ka on be crash nti o ifa ha na eja ka no jifuri ni sem no be wa o driver no hospital ai de ka ga ki na road na sa ye bre ye twitwa ka na san etimi yi driver no be nya me adum de wa pra de be nya bad sa to hospital right now no person.
There is no word from the police, but residents and those passing by were in a state of shock. For the crowd which converged at the scene, the story would have been different if it had happened during the day. They blamed the delay in reconstructing the airport Abuabo Road for the incident and appealed to authorities to speed up work to avoid preventable deaths. A bus conductor was killed on that same stretch on October 14, 2019.
Pupils of the Pierdu Roman Catholic Primary School in the Ashanti region will no longer have to study under trees and old dilapidated classrooms. It follows the inauguration of a 3-unit classroom block with other facilities built by the Forukro Municipal Assembly. Insure FM's Soforia Manfo has more on this report.
The old mud structure built by the community years ago had developed cracks, posing danger to life and property. Headmistress Georgina Ananebwahin says the new block ends years of congestion amid persistent complaint to authorities.
Formerly, we were having a lot of congestion because we combined all the children, KG1 and KG2 in one classroom. But now we have room for each class or grade level, KG1, KG2 plus office and the store. So it has eased congestion and everything. Parents and everybody is here. And we are very happy for what we are seeing today. And we thank God so much for His grace. Is there any other challenge that you want to have? Yes, the next challenge is about our old building. The veranda has been peeled off. So we need, it needs to be rehabilitated, or we have to cast it again so that it will be easy for us to work on it. And then in the classroom too, some of the classrooms are not also good in shape.
Children who were confined in a classroom amidst heat from the congested classroom can now enjoy a well-ventilated classroom block. Oforikro Municipal Chief Executive Gloria Timagambra called on school authorities to ensure maintenance culture.
The teachers should take good care of the facility, because that has been our problem. Going around looking at the schools that need renovation, it is because they are not reporting, they are not telling us what is going on. If we are to maintain the buildings regularly, I don't think it will come to the state that we are finding them in. So I am just pleading with them to take good care of the facility. And instead of thanking me, appreciating what we've done, I'm just pleading that they will transfer those appreciation into votes come December 7, 2024. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo to continue his government so that they can get more. More for Nana to do more for Apiedu. Thank you.
Reporting for Joy News, Obidishie Ofori-Amanfo.
And that's it for Joy News Interactive. And that's it for the Bulletin. I'm Israel. Thank you very much for watching. You have a good night.